Welcome to the deep dive. We take complex topics, sift through the noise, and give you the essentials, the surprises. Basically, what you need to know. Today, we're plunging into something millions of people do, but maybe don't fully grasp all the dimensions of yoga.
It really is fascinating, isn't it? Yoga today kind of holds this big paradox. You've got this ancient, incredibly deep spiritual path from India, aiming for harmony, ultimately for liberation, moksha.
Right, and then you've got this enormous global wellness machine, billions of dollars,
Mhm.
millions doing it, often focusing on, fitness, feeling less stressed, maybe looking good in a pose for Instagram.
Exactly. That split the path to self-realization versus the commercial product that's the core tension. And it's what makes exploring yoga today so interesting.
So our mission in this deep dive is to kind of navigate all that. These different identities yoga has, sometimes they even seem contradictory. We'll trace it from its super ancient roots through its classical shaping right up to how it looks today. We'll look at the philosophy, the different ways people practice, what science says about the benefits.
And we'll also tackle the tough stuff, the commercial side, the debates around cultural appropriation. Really get into it.
So why should you care? Well, if you've ever done a downward dog or even just seen a picture and wondered, what's that about?
Yeah.
This is your shortcut. We're aiming to give you insights you probably won't get in your average yoga class.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning, way back. The word itself, yoga, tells a story, doesn't it?
It really does. From Sanskrit, the root is you.
Meaning to join, or to yoke, to unite. And this isn't just simple connection, it's layered. It's about uniting mind and body, sure, but also the individual you with, like universal consciousness, even humanity in nature.
And what's wild is that even way back then, there was this tension already baked into the word. Patini, this brilliant Sanskrit grammarian from the 4th century BCE, he noted yoga could come from two different roots.
Yeah, that's super important. One root is yuji or yoga. That means to yoke. It kind of connects more to the physical effort, the discipline side, like hatha yoga. You're
Yeah.
literally yoking yourself to the practice.
And the other?
Yud samadho, which means to concentrate. This is more about the mind, the contemplative paths like Raja Yoga. Vyasa, who wrote commentary on the Yoga Sutras, actually said this was the right route, defining yoga as samadhi, deep concentration.
So that ancient split almost predicts the modern situation, where the physical side gets so much emphasis. It suggests that focus isn't totally new, maybe just one interpretation getting amplified.
And the meaning kept evolving. You see it in the texts over time. The Maitraniya Upanishad, maybe 4th century BCE, talks about the oneness of breath, mind, and senses.
Then the Bhagavad Gita, centuries later, gives us famous lines like, equanimity is yoga, or yoga is skill in action.
Right. And then Patanjali's Yoga Sutras define it as calming down the fluctuations of the mind. It's been a living idea.
Okay, so where did it physically start? What's the oldest evidence?
Well, archaeology gives us clues from the Indus-Saraswati Valley civilization. We're talking 2700 BCE. There are seals, fossil remains, showing figures and poses that look very much like meditation, like yoga. It suggests yoga is this incredibly ancient cultural thing from that society.
Wow. And beyond the digs, there's mythology pointing even further back.
Definitely. Shiva is revered as the Adiyogi, the first yogi, and Adi Guru, the first teacher. The story goes, he shared this knowledge with the Saptarishis, the 7 great sages, who then spread it. This frames yoga not as a religion, but as this primordial science for inner well-being, universal.
And we see the early ideas developing in the really old sacred texts, too.
Yes, the Vedas have hymns hinting at meditative practices. The Upanishads, the philosophical heart of Hinduism, they talk about sacrificing the ego through self-knowledge, through wisdom, meditation, austerity. These were early keys.
Then comes the classical period, roughly 500 BCE to 800 CE. You called it a most fertile period.
It really was. You had Mahavira founding Jainism and the Buddha. Both emphasized meditation, ethical living, huge influences.
And this is when the big texts emerge, right? The Bhagavad Gita and Patanjali's Yoga Sutras.
Exactly. The Gita, it outlines 3 main paths: karma yoga, selfless action, skill in action; bhakti yoga, devotion; and jnana yoga, knowledge. And after that, post-classical times saw Tantra rise, and Hatha yoga started focusing more on the physical body, postures, purification, preparing for higher states. Much later, in the modern era, you get figures like Swami Vivekananda. He was key in bringing the philosophical side, Raja Yoga, to the world stage. Really paved the way for yoga going west.
Okay, so we've journeyed through the origins. Now, maybe the most critical text for understanding classical yoga, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. the blueprint for consciousness.
Absolutely, a masterpiece. Compiled around 400 CE, Patanjali wasn't really inventing something totally new. He was like a brilliant editor, codifying existing knowledge from older traditions, Sankhya philosophy, even some Buddhist ideas, into these incredibly concise aphorisms, sutras, 195 or 196 of them.
Sutra means thread, right? Like weaving together a complete guide.
Exactly, a guide to self-realization. And the absolute core, the heart of it all, is in the second verse, Sutra 1.2, the definition everyone quotes.
Yoga's chittavritti.
That's the one. Yoga is the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind, or maybe the stilling of the modifications of the mind stuff.
Let's unpack that a bit. Chitta.
That's the mind in its broadest sense. Consciousness, thoughts, feelings, memories, the whole package
Badly.
means whirlpool or fluctuation. It's that constant mental chatter, the emotional ups and downs, our usual state,
And nirodha.
cessation, restraint, quieting, stilling. So Patanjali is saying the whole point is to quiet that mental noise. So your true self, the seer, as he calls it, can rest in its own nature, untangled from the mind's drama.
And he's structured these sutras into 4 chapters, padas.
Right. First is Samadhi Pada. Defines yoga, talks about the goal, samadhi, or enlightenment. It's kind of aimed at people already advanced on the path.
Then the second, Satanapada, practice.
This is the longest and probably most practical for most people starting out. It introduces Kriya Yoga, sort of yoga of action, and crucially, the 8 limbs of yoga.
Third chapter, Vibhutipada, powers.
Yeah, it talks about the extraordinary abilities, siddhis, that might come with deep practice. But Patanjali warns they're not the goal, actually potential distractions.
Interesting. And the last one, Kaivalyapada.
Liberation. It explores Kaivalya, absolute freedom from suffering, through the cycles of karma, the ultimate end game.
Okay, let's really dig into those 8 limbs, Ashtanga Yoga, because this is where things get, well, really interesting comparing old and new.
It's Patanjali's most famous contribution, maybe. And yeah, often misunderstood today. It's not just a list. It's a sequential path. Ashta means 8. Anga means limb. A step-by-step guide from how you act in the world to deep inner states.
And here's the ticker, right? The profound inversion you mentioned. How does Patanjali start versus how most yoga classes start today?
It's night and day almost. Patanjali starts with ethics. The foundation is moral conduct. Limb 1, yama. These are ethical restraints, guiding how you interact with others. Ahimsa, non-violence, sattva, truthfulness, asteya, non-stealing, brahmacharya, right use of energy, aparigraha, non-possessiveness.
So how you treat the world around you comes first.
Exactly. Then limb 2, niyama. These are personal observances. Self-discipline, shaucha, purity, cleanliness, santosha, contentment, tapas, austerity or self-discipline, svadhyaya, self-study, study of scriptures, ishvara, pranidhana, surrender to a higher power or principle.
Okay, so you build this ethical foundation inside and out. Then what?
Then you get to limb 3, asana, the physical postures. And notice his purpose in the sutras. Sthira sukham asanam. The posture should be steady and comfortable. Why? To prepare the body to sit still for a long time in meditation without being distracted by aches and pains.
Not necessarily to nail a complex pose for Instagram?
Not according to Patanjali, no. It's functional, preparing for the inner limbs.
So contrast that with today. You walk into most studios.
And you start with asana. Often you end with asana. It's the main event. Fitness, flexibility, maybe aesthetics, those become the priorities. The yamas and niyamas, sometimes mentioned but often treated like optional extras, not the essential first steps.
And this isn't just a small change, is it? It fundamentally shifts the whole thing.
Absolutely. It makes it possible to package yoga as just a workout, something secular you do at the gym. It strips away the ethical and philosophical core. And this inversion is a huge part of why people critique modern yoga for being diluted or even culturally appropriated. The marketable part got prioritized.
Okay, so after asana, what are the higher, more internal limbs?
Limb 4 is pranayama, breath control, breath regulation. This is huge for calming the nervous system, focusing the mind, often seen as the bridge inward. Limb 5, pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses, turning your awareness away from external distractions, pulling it inward, a crucial step.
Moving deeper.
Limb 6, dharana, concentration, training the mind to focus on a single point, like the breath or a mantra or an image.
7th.
Dhyana, meditation. This is when that concentration becomes effortless, a sustained, uninterrupted flow.
And the final limb.
Samadhi, absorption, enlightenment, the ultimate state. The boundaries dissolve between you, the act of meditating, and whatever you're meditating on. Union, liberation.
Wow. So that's the classical map. But from that single trunk, so many modern styles have branched out. Most physical yoga today falls under the umbrella of hatha yoga, generally speaking.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. Hatha can be confusing because it has two meanings. Broadly, it just means any yoga using physical postures. So technically, almost every Vinyasa, Ashtanga, Iyengar class is a Hatha yoga class.
But it's also a specific style itself.
Right. When a class is just called Hatha, it usually means a slower paced, gentler style, holding basic poses, focusing on breath, kind of foundational. So yeah, you could call it the mothership for many modern styles.
Okay, let's navigate some of those popular styles. If someone wants something dynamic, flowing, breath synchronized, maybe a bit creative.
That's Vinyasa, definitely, known for its flow. Linking poses together smoothly with the breath. Can range from moderate to pretty vigorous. Good for cardio, building heat.
What about the opposite end, something really structured, intense, maybe even predictable?
That sounds like Ashtanga yoga, made famous by Kapatabi Joyce. It's very rigorous. You do the exact same sequence of poses every single time. There are 6 series. Most people work on the first for years. It builds incredible strength, stamina, very disciplined.
And for the detail-oriented person, someone who really wants to focus on precise alignment.
Then Iyengar yoga is the way to go,
Uh,
developed by BKS Iyengar. It's all about meticulous alignment. They use props extensively, blocks, straps, blankets, chairs to help everyone get the pose right safely. Poses are held for quite a while. Slow, careful, great for body awareness, very therapeutic potential.
What if someone's looking for something more explicitly spiritual, maybe focusing on energy?
Kundalini yoga, as taught by Yogi Bhajan, fits that bill. The goal is to awaken the Kundalini Shakti, energy believed to rest at the base of the spine. It's quite different. Uses specific sets called kriyas, combining postures, often repetitive movements. Dynamic breathing techniques like breath of fire, chanting, meditation can be quite intense, very focused on the energetic experience.
And then there's the heat.
Right. Bikram or hot yoga. Bikram is super specific. 26 poses, 2 breathing exercises, always the same sequence in a room heated to exactly 40 Celsius, 105 Fahrenheit, with 40% humidity.
And hot yoga.
That's more of a general term. Could be a vinyasa class or something else just done in a heated room. Less rigid than Bikram. Both are obviously sweaty, strenuous. Focus is often on flexibility, detoxification through sweating.
Finally, what about deep relaxation? Slowing way down.
2 main ones come to mind. Restorative yoga uses tons of props, bolsters, blankets to completely support your body in passive poses. Held for a long time, 5, 10, even 20 minutes. Deeply relaxing for the nervous system.
And yin.
Yin yoga is also slow, also involves long holds, maybe 3 to 5 minutes typically. But the focus is different. It aims to gently stress the deeper connective tissues, ligaments, fascia, joints, rather than muscles. Improves flexibility and joint mobility over time. More meditative, can be quite intense mentally.
Okay, we've covered history, philosophy, styles, but what about the results? People come to yoga for health reasons, and science seems to be catching up, validating a lot of claims.
It's a really interesting convergence, yeah. Ancient wisdom meeting modern measurement. Yoga's global boom is definitely helped by the sheer amount of research now showing tangible benefits. It's now widely recognized as a form of complementary and alternative medicine, or CAM, a mind-body approach.
And that scientific stamp of approval makes it more accessible, more accepted in mainstream healthcare, right?
Totally. It helps translate concepts like balancing prana or achieving inner peace into language. Doctors understand changes in cortisol, heart rate variability, brain activity. Creates that secular bridge.
So physiologically, what does the science confirm yoga actually does for the body?
Well, the obvious ones first. Strength, flexibility, balance. Clear improvements. It builds muscle, increases range of motion, helps with stability. Especially good as people age, helps slow down that natural loss of flexibility.
And pain management. I hear a lot about yoga for back pain.
Huge area of research. It's proven very effective for chronic low back pain. So much so that the American College of Physicians actually recommends it as a first-line, non-drug treatment. Gentle styles can also really help people manage arthritis discomfort.
Beyond muscles and joints, what about deeper systems?
Systemic benefits, too. Cardiovascular, it can lower stress, reduce inflammation, help manage blood pressure, weight. Risk factors for heart disease. Vigorous styles boost cardio fitness. Respiratory, pranayama, the breath work, improves lung capacity, efficiency. Good for endurance. Nervous system, this is key. Yoga helps shift you out of the fight or flight stress response and into the rest and digest parasympathetic mode. That means lower heart rate, lower blood pressure, less cortisol flooding your system.
That sounds like it would have major psychological benefits too. Stress, anxiety.
Definitely. It's a well-known stress buster. Activating that relaxation response directly counters chronic stress effects. Studies consistently show it reduces symptoms of anxiety and depression. Some research even suggests it boosts serotonin levels, the feel-good neurotransmitter.
Better sleep seems like a natural consequence of that relaxation.
It does. Improved sleep quality is a common report.
Mm.
And people often feel more energetic mentally and physically, more alert, more positive overall. Less negativity.
And just the practice itself, moving mindfully, paying attention.
Right, it's mindfulness in motion. It helps quiet that constant mental chatter, improves focus. You also develop much better body awareness, proprioception. All this contributes to just a better quality of life, a more optimistic feeling.
Okay, let's shift gears now to yoga in the modern world. How it spread, the huge business it became, and the critiques that followed. Swami Vivekananda's 1893 Chicago speech is often cited as the big introduction to the West.
It was huge for the philosophy, for Raja Yoga, meditation, but not so much the physical postures, the asana.
So when did the asana part really take off over here?
It happened gradually through the 20th century. Paramahansa Yogananda brought Kriya Yoga in the 1920s. But a really key moment for postural yoga was probably Indra Devi in the late 1940s. She studied with Krishnamacharya, people call him the father of modern yoga, and she opened a studio in Hollywood, introduced asana to movie stars. That got attention.
And then things really exploded mid-century. The 60s counterculture, changes in immigration laws.
Exactly. The 1965 U.S. immigration law changes were critical, allowed a new wave of Indian gurus and teachers to come and teach directly, and Krishnamacharya's other students became incredibly influential then. B.K.S. Iyengar published Light on Yoga in '66, became like the Bible of modern asana. Kepatavi Joy popularized Ashtanga Vinyasa. Yogi Bhajan started teaching Kundalini Yoga. They collectively shifted yoga from being seen as mostly philosophy to this widespread physical practice.
And with that popularity came, well, business, massive multi-billion-dollar industry, which is, as you said, a double-edged sword.
It really is. Great that it's accessible, visible, reaches so many people. But yeah, it's also undeniably commodified. A spiritual path turned into, leggings and retreats and certification programs. A product.
Does that commercial focus change the practice itself? Dilute it?
Many argue it does. Often the spiritual, philosophical, ethical parts get downplayed or dropped entirely because they're harder to sell than fitness or looking good. Social media amplifies this, focusing on the perfect pose, the yoga body, rather than, say, the yamas or niyamas.
And ethical issues within the industry have cropped up too.
For sure. High costs can make it exclusive, ironically sometimes pricing out the very communities yoga came from. And behind the scenes, you hear about things like really restrictive non-compete clauses for teachers, studios relying on unpaid labor, maybe promoting teachers based on Instagram followers rather than deep knowledge. The profit motive can create problems.
This all ties into the really complex and sensitive issue of cultural appropriation. How do we define that specifically regarding yoga?
Generally, it's when a dominant culture takes practices from a marginalized culture, often for profit, and strips away the original context or meaning. The history here is painful. The British, during colonialism, actively suppressed or mocked yoga in India. Now the West heavily markets and profits from it. Sometimes while sidelining Indian teachers or perspectives within the global yoga world, there's a deep irony there.
How does this appropriation actually show up in the yoga world?
Often in a couple of main ways. One is what you could call sterilization or erasure. That's removing the Sanskrit terms, the chanting, the references to Hindu philosophy or deities to make it feel more secular or universal for a Western audience. But doing so cuts it off from its roots.
Okay, erasure. What's the other way?
Exotification or trivialization. Using sacred symbols out of context just because they look cool or spiritualish, like putting Om symbols or images of Ganesha on leggings or water bottles, or cutesy puns like namaste in bed. It takes deep concepts and makes them shallow, trendy commodities, disrespecting their origin.
So it's not a simple yes or no question whether practicing yoga is appropriation. It's about how you engage.
Exactly. It's about the approach. Appreciation involves humility, respect, learning the history, acknowledging the lineage, making an effort to listen to and amplify South Asian voices in yoga, and being critical of those purely commercial forces that just want to sell a decontextualized product requires conscious engagement, not just consumption.
Okay, quickly, let's clarify yoga against some other things it gets compared to and bust some myths. Yoga versus Pilates, key differences.
Origins. Yoga, ancient India, spiritual goal. Pilates, early 20th century Germany, purely physical conditioning, core strength. Practice. Yoga, Wide range of poses, often just mat props, spiritual element. Pilates, controlled movements, often uses special equipment like the reformer, not spiritual.
Okay. What about yoga versus Tai Chi?
Tai Chi. Ancient China, originally a martial art, focuses on balancing life energy. Uses slow, continuous flowing movements, moving meditation. Roots in Taoism, but usually practiced secularly. No equipment needed. Very different feel from most yoga asana.
Right. Now for the myths. Big one. You have to be flexible to do yoga.
Total myth. Probably the biggest barrier for people. Yoga builds flexibility. It doesn't require it up front. If you're stiff, yoga is probably especially good for you.
Myth 2. Yoga is a religion.
It has spiritual roots in Hindu philosophy, yes, but it's not a religion like, say, Christianity or Islam, with required dogmas or beliefs. It's a system of practices for self-understanding and well-being.
Hmm.
People of all faiths, or no faith, practice yoga.
Myth 3. Yoga is just for women.
Historically, just wrong. It was practiced almost entirely by men for centuries, millennia even. The modern perception is purely down to Western marketing and cultural trends in the last 50, 60 years. Benefits everyone.
Myth 4. Yoga is just stretching, or it's not a real workout.
Definitely not just stretching. It builds series strength, balance, endurance. Depending on the style, think Ashtanga or a strong vinyasa class. It can be incredibly physically demanding, a very real workout.
And finally, myth 5. Yoga is always gentle and safe.
It can be gentle and therapeutic, but it's not always. Like any physical activity, you can get injured if you push too hard, have bad alignment, or follow poor instruction. Some styles are very demanding. Good teaching is crucial for safety.
So as we wrap this up, it's clear yoga isn't just one thing. It's ancient, it's modern, it's physical, it's mental, it's spiritual.
It's a living tradition, evolving for thousands of years and still changing as it spreads globally. It's a philosophy for liberation. It's a set of techniques for health. It's backed by science now. And yes, it's also a huge global business with all the complications that brings.
Its roots show this deep focus on union, on stilling the mind, with ethics as the absolute foundation in Patanjali's system.
But the modern way, especially in the West, often flips that. Starts with the body, the poses, which made it easy to integrate into the fitness world, highlighting those science-backed benefits.
But that popularization also brought challenges. Commercial pressures, dilution, the whole cultural appropriation debate, needing to remember and respect its South Asian origins.
So engaging with yoga today kind of means engaging with all of that complexity. If you practice, the invitation is maybe to be more than just a consumer buying a class or nice gear. It's an invitation to be curious intellectually, ethically. Learn the background, respect where it came from, question the hype, practice with awareness. Both inner awareness and awareness of the wider context.
Maybe the ultimate union yoga offers us today is finding a way to integrate that deep ancient wisdom with a really conscious, critical, but also compassionate way of living in our very modern, complex world. What does that kind of integration, that kind of union look like for you?